It might seem odd that we're looking back at how The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild changed open-world games when Red Dead Redemption 2 was recently released to a swarm of critical praise. On the one hand, it's clear that Rockstar set a new standard for open-world games in terms of production quality. But what's unclear at this stage, however, is if there's anything groundbreaking that'll make other open-world games quick to jump on what made Arthur Morgan's journey an incredible one. On the other hand, while it might have only been a year, we're already seeing the likes of Ubisoft taking inspiration from Nintendo's open-world masterpiece. Let's compare, shall we?
Don't wander off.
Before we begin, we publish new content all week long, so be sure to subscribe and ring the bell to get notified about our latest videos. Rockstar has a tried and true method of creating open-world games since they revolutionized the genre back in 2001 with Grand Theft Auto 3, after which countless imitators have tried to cash in on what made GTA such a fascinating experience. Obviously, not everyone tried to follow this exact format. In The Elder Scrolls 3 Morrowind, Bethesda also revolutionized open worlds with the RPG genre, where instead of assigned missions, it would rely mostly on picking up quests and exploring dungeons. Though, one could argue that its elements were inspired by the N64 Zelda games to begin with. However, another popular open-world format came with Ubisoft's Assassin's Creed series, which notably set a standard for using large towers to uncover points of interest, while still noticeably using the mission design of Rockstar's titles. This is a format that became really popular with less popular open-world titles.
Good, you remember.
So you'd have me walk amongst the others and learn what I can about the traitor.
This all brings us to 2017 with The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild. And while it does borrow elements from both Bethesda and Ubisoft's formula, it also brings in more original mechanics and design directions that make it a whole new breed of open-world game. With all the recent talk of Rockstar redefining open-world games, let's not forget that Breath of the Wild also raised the bar and changed the nature of sandbox games moving forward as well. It's a game whose influential mechanics are felt in titles like Far Cry 5 and Assassin's Creed Odyssey, and yes, even Red Dead Redemption 2. Take for instance the map of Hyrule in Breath of the Wild. We loved that we, the player, filled it in, and that unlocking some towers didn't automatically populate it. Open worlds before Breath of the Wild were set in their ways of populating the map with multiple markers to make us go from point A to point B ad nauseum. In Breath of the Wild, however, the towers only unlocked the basic landscape, which forced us to explore in order to find everything else, resulting in what felt like true exploration in a video game for perhaps the first time. We could easily play through the game's campaign and still not uncover every major location on the map, say a village or stable for example, which is still something that is quite unique for an open world game today. Missed something this time? Oh well, search harder next time.
I've waited so long for the moment to see you finally rush Hyrule Castle.
There's an endearing element of the unknown in Breath of the Wild, where we never know what's over the next hillside or just past the horizon. This feeling kept us constantly searching and discovering, and made us feel what actual explorers must feel like, right down to the frustration and irritability of getting lost and not knowing where to go. It's something that Assassin's Creed Odyssey gave its players by allowing them to use the traditional guided mode, or a Breath of the Wild style exploration mode. Nintendo completely redefined freedom in video games, so it's no wonder that walking around Red Dead Redemption 2's camps and towns actually reminded us a bit of Breath of the Wild, in terms of its wide open expansiveness and possibility. This seems to be where the genre is heading, what with once fairly linear games like Far Cry 5 and Assassin's Creed Odyssey encouraging us to go off the beaten path and discover things organically in their newest entries. We're in a period of less hand-holding and more go figure it out for yourself, and it was Nintendo that helped us get there.
You must hurry, Link.
As mentioned before, in Breath of the Wild, we never felt forced from one map icon to another in a rush to complete the narrative. In fact, the game even dangles the final destination of Hyrule Castle right in front of the player and even gives them the option to go straight to the final boss right away, even though they'll most likely get their ass whooped. Instead, it's the feeling of figuring out how this world works and slowly becoming the powerhouse we need to be able to take on Ganon that felt like an adventure all on its own. And that's the most important thing this game accomplished, making the environment matter as much, or more in Zelda's case, as the storyline. making the actual locales themselves the story and not just the space on which the plot advances. And no, we're not just fanboys protecting Breath of the Wild's weak storyline. We fully admit that the game's story is, not great. But we can also see its in-game environments playing an increased role in open-world games since Zelda's release. It's no coincidence that Far Cry 5 split its map into different regions, each with distinct environments, different methods of how to reach that region's own sub-boss, and the fact that locations and environments are getting extra attention in today's open-world games because Breath of the Wild demanded it.
What if I told you that everything you ever dreamed could come true? What if I told you that everything could be overcome?
We've also noticed survival elements working their way into open worlds where in the past there were few, if any, outside actual hardcore survival games. In Breath of the Wild, we were constantly thinking about what clothes, food, and weapons worked with each area of the map. What time of day was it? What was the weather at that time? Was there anything in our compendium that could help us? All these details changed the way we approached the game, and ignoring them only made things much harder or resulted in certain death. While this feature is still rare in open worlds, if the cooking in Red Dead Redemption 2 is any indication, it looks like this semi-survival trend will be the future of sandbox play.
Careful not to work yourself to death there, Uncle.
I was thinking.
Yeah, does it pay well?
Oh, eventually.
Furthermore, one of the biggest knocks on previous open-world games was that they were just too easy and had little standing between us and advancing the narrative with relative ease. But the beginning hours of Breath of the Wild were different. They were challenging as well as frustrating, more in line with the Dark Souls games, though not as difficult, which meant we had to get good in order to proceed forward. This is still something lacking in open-world games overall, but again, if the evolution from Zelda to Red Dead Redemption 2 is any indication, then this will be an increasing trend moving forward. We're not saying the missions in Rockstar's latest title are overly difficult, but there's a definite bump in difficulty seeing as nearly any crime, or hell, even an accident, results in a bounty on our head and an overwhelming shootout with the law. Plus, the tutorial phase in Red Dead Redemption 2 is much longer compared to previous Rockstar games. Sure, the tried-and-true Rockstar control scheme felt almost effortless by now, but with so much added in Red Dead 2 and so many ways to customize it this time around, for the first time in a while, Rockstar's game is not simply a pick-up-and-play. It'll take time to master Arthur Morgan and his surroundings, and the game seems to need to spell everything out to the player. But Breath of the Wild took the Super Mario Bros. Approach of tutorials by having the layout of the Great Plateau be the tutorial phase, without feeling like it was the tutorial. Instead, it used its terrain and NPCs to simply guide the player on how to use Link's abilities without spelling out how to master them. If Rockstar had taken this approach, maybe there would have been less complaints about Red Dead Redemption 2's opening hours.
Now, friend, I ain't asking for much.
The evolution of open-world games is an exciting and current topic in gaming. From Grand Theft Auto 3 to Assassin's Creed to Minecraft to Metal Gear Solid 5 and beyond, it's quite a time to be a gamer, and the rapid progress in sandbox design is not likely going to slow down. Just as hunting felt new and fun in the first Red Dead Redemption, and then was taken to new heights in Breath of the Wild, only to be one-upped by Red Dead Redemption 2, this process of change, adaptation, and evolution will bring us to a new place where we'll see games we never thought possible. Nevertheless, there's a chance we may end up having this conversation again once CD Projekt Red releases the highly anticipated Cyberpunk 2077. With so much inspiration to work off already, just imagine what that game has in store for us.
Only the Corp gets what it wants. Remember that. Learn it.
Check out these other great clips from MojoPlays, and be sure to subscribe and ring the bell to get notified about our latest videos.